Hi, this is Brandon Koski with eduinreview.com, and I'm here today with the authors of The Great Typo Hunt, Jeff Deck and Benjamin Wilson. Thanks for meeting with me today. They wrote this new book, The Great Typo Hunt, in which they went out across the U.S. in search of typos in places where we see them every day, the grocery store, convenience store, signage, etc. And they actually took the extra step to correct them. And I have to say the two of you are after my own heart. As someone who proofreads professionally, I'm constantly finding little proofreading errors everywhere. So Jeff, this whole thing was your idea. What kind of gave you the gusto to go out there and hunt down typos everywhere and fix them?
Well, I had wanted to make some sort of positive difference in the world, but I really had to ask myself first, well, what am I actually good at? What is my specific skill that I can use? And the answer that I came up with for me was editing. I'd worked as an editor at a couple different publications, and I'd really honed my typo spotting eye during those opportunities, and so I decided to change the world through hunting down typos, and that's pretty much how The Great Typo Hunt got started.
And in the book, you liken yourself to a superhero, and your super stealth power is identifying typos and being able to fix them. And Benjamin, you went along on the trip, so Jeff calls you and says, I have this idea, I want to drive across the country and correct typos. How did you react, and how did he lure you into the car?
Well, it was sort of like he said, I'm going across the country, and I said, great, that sounds like fun, road trip, and he said, to correct typos. I was like, I love road trips. I didn't really process the typo thing. It was almost like he slipped it in there and totally escaped my attention. So I didn't realize how serious he was about that part until he was on his way down to pick me up, and then first place we went, we were looking for typos. Fortunately, I was able to find one at the same time he did, so maybe I was just meant to be the perfect sidekick.
And then you really kind of jumped on board and got into the whole spirit of the trip.
Absolutely.
So you guys actually ended up doing a lot more on this trip than just correcting typos. You guys delved into politics and race and religion and all sorts of things. And did you expect that to happen? Or was that just kind of a byproduct of the trip that I guess made it a little more interesting?
I wasn't really sure what to expect when I was first setting out. I was really just focused on sort of the surface of the mission of just fixing typos one at a time, going after specific signs that were erroneous, but it really turned out that behind every typo was a story, and sometimes it was a story of a larger breakdown in communication. Sometimes it would be employers and employees not communicating on a basic level. Sometimes it would be just people from different backgrounds and cultures just not being able to just talk honestly with each other, and so each typo could really open up interesting and unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah, and that's part of what brought me back to the trip after I'd done my first leg. Was I got a little bit obsessed with some of the patterns of the typos we were finding, and how there was always something going on underneath the typo, and that's what I really had to come back and explore more of.
Do you guys see this kind of tying back into the education system in the U.S.? I mean, when I got to college and I took my first journalism class, I was shocked that we had to take a weekly spelling and grammar test. And I thought, we're in college, shouldn't we all know how to do this now? And when I complained to my professor, he said, no, most of the class in a journalism major, they don't know the answer. So did you guys find this kind of tying back to a bigger problem at just the education level?
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's true that part of typo prevention is just the simple fact of that you really need to proofread your work before you put it out into the world, and a lot of typos do come out of carelessness, but there's another part of them that come out of really deficits in education early on. We found that a lot of the common spelling mistakes out there actually follow specific phonetic patterns that, let's say, double letter confusion, like writing dinning instead of dining, or shiping instead of shipping, not knowing when to throw in that extra letter or not, are examples of people being confused by not knowing phonics, which is all about the relationship of the way that a word sounds to the way that it's spelled and the way that it looks. And so if you can really add in more phonics back into early spelling and grammar education, then you can head a lot of typos off at the pass.
And those kids kind of grow up with those skills, and then so a generation from now, everything will be spelled correctly.
Yeah, if we get phonics in, and if we get some teacher training. I mean, you mentioned what you went through in the journalism profession. I mean, in the teaching profession, as teachers go to get their certificate, they have to deal with all the different subjects they're going to teach. But there's also a lot more theory than there is mechanics of teaching. Teachers aren't taught things like how to correct a child's mistake very quickly so it doesn't become a habit without making them feel bad, and how to reinforce the good responses, and how to test for mastery as they're going along. A lot of the actual mechanics of how teaching works aren't taught to teachers.
Right.
So that's something we really need to see.
I'm curious, I spend a lot of time on Facebook and Twitter, both personally and professionally, and that's to me like a breeding ground for typo proofing. How do you guys handle those when you see them? Because I rarely see a status or a comment posted that doesn't have something wrong with it, and I usually bite my tongue, but every once in a while I call them out. How do you guys handle those?
I mean, our mission was really focused more on errors that were in more permanent public signage. But I think that it's just important to, especially nowadays for kids who are growing up with this kind of technology, just to make sure that during their education they learn that there's just this distinction that needs to be made between, let's say, personal and informal and immediate writing versus writing that's more formal and more permanent, and that's going to say something about the impression you're trying to give. And so if you look at something like texting or Twitter or Facebook, there might be more typos because people are trying to get their message out quicker, and they might use certain kinds of abbreviations and shorthand. And so it's really just teaching that distinction and saying, all right, that's fine in that arena, but when you're writing something more formal, then you really need to take the time to make sure what you're writing is correct, and that you're spelling out everything very clearly, and that you have just a lot of clarity and professionalism in your communication.
So Twitter has that 140 character limit, and so you understand there has to be a shorthand there. Facebook, though, I do have to say personally, I worry. I don't so much go crazy about the typos as I worry that the typos are a sign that the kids think Facebook is sort of a private medium when that's really public space. So I have a larger concern there that the typos sort of can tip me off.
Right. Well, it's a very fun read, and it's got the heart of a great American road trip, and it's like eye candy for people like me who love proofreading and editing. It's a really fun book, and I'm so glad to have met you guys and hear a little bit more. One last question, do you guys continue the typo hunting journey? Do you still have the correction kit, and do you still take a few steps to correct those?
I do have the typo correction kit with me. It's actually on the car right now. And we've been folding in some typo hunting as we go along on our book tour. We're taking the opportunity here and there to hunt for typos, but we're also focusing on just spreading some of the core messages about things that we've learned, the importance of proofreading, and as we've mentioned, just the real difference that phonics can make early on. So we're trying to really push those messages.
Great, it's a good message, and I think one that a lot more people need to hear. For eduandreview.com, this is Brandy Koski.